Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Writers Chat. And this is the place people like to gather together, writers like to gather together. We talk about all things about writing, for writers, and by writers. And we're just happy to see everybody. We got a lot of our regular crew in the chat today. And we welcome you and thank you if you're watching this by replay. We know a few of you couldn't join us today, but had made the point of saying they'll watch the replay. So we enjoy the replay. We appreciate the time that you take to build your writing career and learn more. And this community has just been so cool to grow and support and love each other in Christian love on that way. My name's Jean Wise. I'm one of the co-hosts. I'm joined today in person by Johnnie Alexander, and one of our other co-hosts, and our other co-hosts, Bethany Jets by phone. And thank you to Melissa for being behind the scenes, monitoring the chat and recording all that. So thank you to all of you that are here today. I just finished writing a sermon on being thankful. So can you tell I'm being thankful? So I'm being thankful on that way. I'm going to turn it over today to Johnnie, who's going to tell us what our topic is today, and she's going to kind of share some of her excitement and knowledge and wisdom for something new coming up. I'm going to pop on at the end and talk how nonfiction people can use what she's going to talk about today too. So Johnnie, take it away.
Oh, I'm so excited. We're going to be talking today about NaNoWriMo, which stands for National Novel Writing Month, which takes place in the month of November. The idea is to write 50,000 unedited words. And that's one of the key things to this, is to shut down that inner editor and just write a draft. And it can be the messiest draft ever. It doesn't matter. You just want to get your words down on paper. And so at the end of the month, you've written 50,000 words. You can take those words, you can revise them, you can work on them, you can change them up, do whatever you need to do, and eventually, hopefully, come up with a polished manuscript that can be published. So I don't know how I first connected with NaNoWriMo, but it was a way long time ago, 2003, and I think at that point it had been around for about 4 years. I think it was in the late 1990s that this, like a couple, 2 or 3 people got together and just decided to do this crazy thing, and it has grown phenomenally since then. I mean, now if you go to the NaNoWriMo website, I mean, they do Camp NaNoWriMo, they do young children, young writers programs. They've just got all kinds of things going on. And from that very first time, I think the year that I did it, there were like maybe 20,000 people, and now it's just hundreds of thousands of people participate every year. So that was in 2003. I wrote a crazy little story about this house that I lived in when I was a teenager, and I really love this house. And I wrote this story about this girl. She goes back to the house. It's empty. She goes down she has to stay the night there for some reason. Her car broke down or something. And it's like these ghosts come, and it's the people that lived there before, and they were her ancestors. So it was my way of just sort of, going back into the past. Well, put that aside. I don't even know if I have a copy of that again. 2005. I participated a second time, but I do want to say, when I did that, that was like, I thought, oh my gosh, I love to write. I never had really written fiction before. I always wanted to, but had just kind of been scared to. And by doing NaNoWriMo and just letting words flow and not editing them, and having sentences like, the mom in chapter 4 is actually the aunt, and now she's going to be the aunt from here on out in the story. I mean, because I had nothing. I was just writing. So I would even just put those kinds of things in the draft. It was just because you kept on going and you did not edit.
So it sounds like it's a good place for somebody that just even wants to dip their toe into fiction writing, right?
Yeah, because then it was like, wow, I mean, I wasn't a polished writer by any means, but it was like, I can create characters, I can write dialogue, and I did have a sort of fuzzy plot. I mean, in a way. So it was workable. But I did put that aside. So that was 2003. 2005, I decided to write it again. Well, I'm still obsessed with this house because it is a house that I just loved. Like I said, I lived there when I was a teenager. But I decided to take a different approach. And I wrote another draft about with the same house featured in it. Well, time goes on and time goes on and time goes on, and I rewrite that and rewrite that and rewrite that, and eventually it became a book. Yes. So it does happen. So this is actually my second novel. It's not my debut novel, but my second novel, Where She Belongs, and it was the first in a series, which was picked up. So, you know, I really can thank NaNoWriMo for that. In 2008, I participated again. I wrote a World War II story, which, again, I'm actually working with a professional editor on it. I hope to have it out next year. 2009, I wrote another one. It finally became this book after many, many years, about 4 years, I think, Where Treasure Hides, World War II story. So this also started out as a NaNoWriMo project. Again, lots of drafts. I mean, lots of drafts, lots of rewriting. It's not like you can take that 50,000 words and send it to a publisher. No way, you do not want to do that. I also participated in 2010, 2012. I think it was 2010. My daughter ended up in the hospital with her infant newborn, and I also was trying to do it by hand and you know, write 50,000 words by hand. That never worked for me. So that year I gave up. So it's like I did not get my 50,000 words in. So 2012 comes around and I decide I'm going to do it again. And it's another just busy, busy, busy time because, you know, Thanksgiving is in November. There's a lot going on in November. So 2012, I decided I am not failing at this again. And I ended up writing 30,000 words the last 3 days of November, just so that I could say that I had finished it. And
That is amazing.
My wrist hurt so bad, I'm not kidding, that I was not going to not do it again. And I think I started again like other years I've not really kept track of because I didn't really sign up just in case. And again, I would love to do one by hand, just write it out by hand, but that doesn't seem to work for me. So anyway, then, you know, I had other contracts, I had other writing projects. So it's not until this year that I've really felt like I could just delve into NaNoWriMo again. And I'm so excited for the group that has gathered, you know, with me and alongside me, and we're doing this together. If you want to be part of that group, go to Facebook, Serious Writer NaNoWriMo. I mean, we have a group and we would be glad to welcome you into that. Okay, so that's just kind of my experience.
Johnnie, can you talk about the group just a minute? What is the group doing and what's...
So, okay, well, right now we're preparing for NaNoWriMo, and that is what we're going to be talking about today, is preparing for NaNoWriMo. So November is NaNoWriMo, October is Preptober. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. So, you know, I've put up little things in there and people are starting, you know, to figure out characters, figure out plot, figure out setting, those kinds of things. And that's what we're going to talk about. But I did want to encourage you that, you know, you can write this very messy draft and not edit it. And later, and it might be years, I mean, for me, it was years, that you can, someone just said, how much coffee have I had? I don't even drink coffee. I am just so excited about NaNoWriMo. And I'm excited about it this year. I mean, I truly, truly am. So, and I'm excited about you guys. You guys have just kind of amped me up here. So anyway, yeah. You can do it and you may have your book eventually published. I do have water. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and hope that this still works. It worked beforehand. There we go. So you should be able to see the Nano Prep 101. And we're just kind of going to go through this a little bit. Not hit everything because there's just too much, but the link is at the top of the chat. It was one of the first things included in the chat. For those of you who are watching the replay, it is bit.ly/NA, NO, PREP, WORKBOOK. So it's Nano Prep Workbook, but some of those letters are capitalized, and I think you need to do that for a bit.ly link. So anyway, this is a great workbook, and we're just going to kind of go through it a little bit, and eventually some of you, if you want, can take a quiz. So you're wanting to do NaNoWriMo, you want to write 50,000 words in the month of November. One thing that you want to do is sign up at the NaNoWriMo.org website. You can create a profile, and you can find writing buddies. And so Johnnie Alexander, you can look for me, and then some of the other people that are regulars here in Writers Chat, I'm buddies with them. I hope I've gotten everybody. If I haven't, please, send me a buddy request. But feel free just to buddy up with us, because we are just really excited about NaNoWriMo, and we want to help encourage you to, to be successful at this too. So let me look. Got all kinds of things going on here. So the NaNoWriMo development guide has like 5 different sessions. So we're just going to go through these pretty quickly. But one thing they said to start out with is to develop a story idea you're passionate about, because you are going to be spending the whole month writing it, and you've got to write 50,000 words. So you want to have a story that you really, really want to tell, and that means something to you and speaks to your heart. So, I don't know what that story idea is going to be for you. The first 2 books that I wrote that were published were stories, and we call those heart stories, that really tugged at my heart. Of course, the one I talked about, it had to do with the house I lived in as a teenager. And the second one was a World War II story about the stealing of art by the Nazis and the rescuing of children during that time too. So, those were 2 things that I just became very, very interested in. So you just want something that you're going to stick with. But I will say, if you get like 10,000 words in and this story is just not doing it for you, I would just kind of start a new chapter that says, that was all a dream, and here's what really happened, and just keep going. I mean, you can do whatever you need to do, but just to get 50,000 words down. And then maybe some other day, that first 10,000 words will mean something to you, but if not, that's okay. It's fine. So here's some 4 quick ways to develop an idea. One is to borrow a plot. This one I do want to read because I think it's just so cute. So they suggest that you write down 3 summaries of movies that you really like, and this, you all will recognize this. A teenage girl lives in a dystopian world where the USA has been divided into 13 districts, and every year children are chosen from each district to fight to the death. The teenage girl volunteers to find a place for her sister. She tries to survive while also protesting against the evil capital, and maybe in parentheses, falling in love. And of course, we all know that's Hunger Games. So they give you blocks to write down your own summaries, and then suggest that you just change things around. And so this author of this guide has changed the Hunger Games things around, the elements of that. And here's what I don't know who wrote it, came up with. A teenage girl lives in a future where the oceans have risen and everyone lives on small islands. The water is controlled by pirates who demand a sacrifice each year to keep the island safe. The girl is chosen, but in a storm, she's rescued by a different kind of pirate ship, one made up of former would-be sacrifices who act as pirates against the pirates. And ... So you can see how taking a plot like the Hunger Games, just really, and switching it up, you come up with a whole new story. And it's not really plagiarism, because think about this. There's this really cute YouTube video about buying stories at the story store, the story store. And J.K. Rowling and George Lucas both go in there because they want to buy a story about an orphan with special powers who meets up with someone who's stronger than them, who will guide them in developing their powers. And of course, that is both the Harry Potter series and Star Wars, right? So, it's okay. They're still very different stories, even though they have the same elements. Another idea is to borrow a character, which could be just someone from history, somebody you know, and just kind of build something around that.
Hey, Johnnie, before you go too far, I'm curious about this YouTube video. So maybe could you find that later? Maybe put that on the Writers Chat page?
Yeah, we will try to find that. They showed it at the first Ohio conference, Serious Writer Ohio conference. It was shown there. So I'm sure Bethany may be able to do that.
Yeah, and just put it up on the Writers Chat members page, because that intrigued me as being very creative, and others may really want to watch that later. So that let's use.
It's cute. It's really cute to watch and to see how so many stories have things in common, and they are. I mean, they're going to, right?
Okay. And Rhonda's talking about that they're really the and I think we could Google this too about the 12 basic sources of conflict and the universal stories. I bet that you could look at that as a general framework as part of your Preptober. Is that what you call it? Preptober?
Preptober. Yeah.
Preptober.
There are actually, and we can talk about this again maybe if we have time later. There's actually like 7. I mean, and different people have different things, but usually there's these 7 story archetypes,
Yeah.
and those stories fall into those. So, remind me, and if we have time at the end, we'll go over those really quickly too, and that is one thing that we have talked about in the Serious Writer Facebook group, because I put that list up there and people were trying to identify what their story was. And that can be a really good starting place, actually, is to know what kind of story you want to tell. Okay, so you could borrow a plot, you could borrow a character, you can go in the news. I mean, you can just see some kind of news story that intrigued you, but then give it a twist or look at it from someone else's point of view, like a bystander or something like that, and how they might be affected by it. And of course, a whole new world. And there's some links here you can see that you can go to that can help you just generate some ideas if you're just wanting to make up a whole new world. And of course, fantasy writers often do this, sci-fi writers too, to some extent. So, that could be a fun place to start. Okay, I just want to kind of keep going. I know this is really fast, but you've got the link so you can go back through it later. Create complex, believable characters. So I think as you're backing away from this just a minute, as you're thinking about your story and you're thinking about your story idea, you're going to have characters, you're going to have some kind of action or the plot, and you're going to have a setting where all this is taking place. And of course, you're probably going to have some kind of theme, or, even if you don't start out with one, that's fine, but there'll be, something that you're trying to say in your story. And even though we're going through these kind of linearly, like this one, this one, this one, this one, excuse me, I would rather you kind of think of those as a circle. And it doesn't really matter where you start on that circle, whether you start with the setting, you start with the action, or you start with the characters, because they're all kind of interrelated. And as soon as you say, well, my character is going to be someone who wants to win a baking competition, well, we already know something about that character. Now we know there's going to be a baking competition. We know that there's going to be obstacles to her winning that competition. I mean, and that's very simplistic. We know there's going to be a kitchen. I mean, so, as soon as you start making even the smallest decisions, they're going to affect all these other things. So again, we're going through these one at a time, but don't feel like you have to start out with characters and figure all that out, and then go to, setting and figure all that out, and then go to the plot. You don't. You kind of want to weave all of these together and kind of see what happens. So you want to have 3-dimensional characters. You want to have characters that are realistic, that are authentic, and you want them to be complex. So you're going to have your protagonist, which is the person who changes the most in the story. Usually it's the person who grows in the story, not necessarily the point of view character, but usually. You're going to have supporting characters, and you're going to have an antagonist, and the antagonist can be a person, or it could be weather or something abstract, poverty, those kinds of things. But even then, like if you go back to Hunger Games, that whole government setup is the major antagonist, but it is embodied in President Snow. So there is still one person that's sort of the main antagonist that Katniss is working against. So, read all of this. This is really good stuff. And then there's a character questionnaire. There are bios. You can do bios. You can find all kinds of character bio worksheets, and you can go as in-depth as you wish to.
And the idea is to do this ahead of time, to have
Yeah.
all of this, or just some of it filled out?
Well, we're going to talk about that, how much you want to do. So that's coming up really soon. So you can do as much or as little as you want, and we're going to take a quiz pretty soon. I'm going to have some of you guys take a quiz, so you can see which one works, what kind of plotting method might work best for you. But anyway, you do all these you can find all these questionnaires, and of course they're also saying, you know, you answer questions about the antagonist and maybe supporting characters too. But you know, if you don't, I usually don't go really deep into these, but that's me. Other people, they want to know everything. But don't worry about it. And if your character changes, like again, if you get like a quarter of the way through and realize that main character, maybe it would work better if it was a girl instead of a guy, or a guy instead of a girl, just switch it up right then, and don't go back and change it, but just go from that point forward the way you wanted to go. You know,
And really, when you first started into this, you didn't have this tool.
no.
Just dived in, didn't
I
you?
just started with a blank page and really just knew I wanted to write a story about this house, and that was it. I mean, I honestly had nothing. In fact, almost all my NaNoWriMos, yeah, I've hardly ever done any prep work for them. I am this year, because this project I have for this year actually will be revised and will be a story novel coming out in May as part of the Mosaic collection, which I'm a group of. So, excuse me. So I know it's going to come out. So I've got to do as much prep work as possible so that I can get it ready. But I still will not do all these character bios, because that's just not how I do things. But if you do, that's great. You know, it's just everybody's different. But here is what I will do, because I think this is really, really important, especially for the protagonist. It says, what does your main character want more than anything in the world? And you've got to know that. And what do they need to grow as a person, excuse me, which is not necessarily the same thing as they want. And another way I put that is, I look at it as, what do they want the most, and what do they fear the most, and what do they want so much that they will overcome that fear to get it. And I try to sort of play with that when I'm developing a character, and that really helps me with that.
You know, this sheet, I'm just fascinated by this resource, and this sheet would be helpful outside of this, just to do your prep work for any writing.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah. Rhonda wanted to know, does NaNoWriMo participation require you to set aside your current work in progress?
There are people who do not do that. So,
okay.
So it started out with, you know, yes, you're going to start a new project, and then it is kind of the recommended thing to do, because if you're already in a project, you often have a hard time being messy, because you're already in it, and you may have polished those pages, and it's really hard to be messy. But no, you don't have to. And actually, there's different badges that you choose yourself, your badges. And some of them are like saying, you know, I forget what the word is, but it's like, if you are starting something new and this is what you're doing. But then there is a badge for, you know, people who are working on a ongoing project. And then of course there are the NaNoWriMo Rebels, who are the nonfiction people, and of course Jeannie's going to talk about that again in a little bit. So you can do whatever you want. I know some people have said, you know, I'm editing 50,000 words, and you know, that's not being a purist, but that's okay, because what we're wanting you to do is to get into your work and get into your writing.
And the idea of any time you set up kind of a mini challenge is to kind of remotivate yourself, challenge yourself, give yourself a short deadline in order to help you focus and you'll exceed what you normally can if you just kind of,
right.
Maybe I'll try sometime to get this done. No, you are so focused. So you could take any variation that works for you where you are at this time.
Exactly. You need, and that's what's most important, is doing what's going to work for you. Okay, so, and then there's more character resources. Session 3 talks about the detailed plot or outline, and this is where, I mean, it gets really cool. So I think there are 6 different things they're doing, but you can take a quiz. And I know some of you have already taken the quiz. Those of you who are in the Serious Writer Facebook group may have already taken this. This is another bit.ly link. So it's bit.ly/plotting quiz, and the P and the Q are capitalized. So I'm sorry about my voice. The more I talk, the scratchier I get. But Jeannie, you'll have to watch the chat for me. If you want to go ahead and take the quiz, again, it's bit.ly/P for plotting and Q quiz, plotting quiz. It'll take you to the quiz, and you can put what your answers are in the chat, and then let me go through these real quick, and we'll see what some of you guys have, because I'm interested in knowing. So I took it the other day, and mine came out with method 2 and 3. It was a tie, and so they showed me as the picture with number 2, but when I read the descriptions of 2 and 3, I decided I'm going to go with number 3 instead. But
hey, Johnny, just on the bit.ly thing, Dory put capital P-cube, the bit.ly link, PQ, or is it the whole thing?
It's the whole word. It's capital. It's bit.ly/capital PLOTTING capital QUIZ.
Okay, I put that in. So if somebody wants to test that real quick and see if that takes them to the right place, I put that in the chat.
I think I tested it when I did it.
Okay.
It should work.
Okay. And if they take it, they can put it down. Yep, they got that. Dory's getting it. So it looks
Good.
like, yeah.
Good. Thank you. Okay, so the first one is stay loose, jot, bin, pants. So this is for the true pantser. So all you're going to do is jot down some scene ideas. And really, I mean, I guess method 0 would be just starting out with hardly anything and just starting out and just starting to write. So that would be total no prep at all. But if you're wanting to do some prep, this one is it's going to go on the spectrum from like pantser to plotter. So you're going to see this grow, and each method is going to be a little bit more detailed or a lot more detailed than the one before. So in this one, you jot down scene ideas, and you jot down like 50 to 100 scene ideas, and you just as they come to you, whatever. And so they give you a little sheet here that you can just write all these things down, and then you start taking those ideas and you sort them. Should the scene go in the beginning, the middle, or the end? So you work all that out, and then you do your complete list of scenes in order, and then every day you know exactly what scene you're going to write. So
wow.
Even if you do nothing else, I think this scene idea list would be a good thing to do, because that way you know what you're going to write every day. And to complete NaNoWriMo, you're going to be looking at writing 1,667 words a day. And if you know you don't want to write on Thanksgiving Day, you're going to have to write those words, so you might want to shoot for a goal of about 2,000 just to get ahead.
What was your magic number? 1,600?
67. 1,667.
67 or 57?
667.
Wow.
So that will get you to do that. And if you're writing fast and you're not editing and you're not worrying about show not tell, and you're not worrying about a lot of dialogue beats, and you're not worried about a lot of just dialogue. If you write dialogue and hardly even, you could put he said, she said, or whatever, but don't worry about what they're doing, man, you can rack up the words so fast. So that's a little tip. But you just want to be writing. So you can say she was angry. We know when you go back to edit, you're going to show that anger instead of telling that anger. I find myself getting into these stream of consciousness things about what the character is thinking and going through, and that just kind of happens, but ends up being a lot of words. But it also is a way for me to get to know my character when I do that, because I'm not going to know everything, and your character may change as time goes on. So if you just do these stream of consciousness, somebody says something, and your character just has this whole mind thoughts swirling around, and you just kind of say all that and then go back to the dialogue. You can that may not stay in the story at all, but it is helping me to know my character, which is a good thing. So anyway, this is good because it gives you something to write every day. You know what you need to do. So
well, it's interesting. You wanted me to help watch the chat. The pantsers are cheering themselves on, by the way. Leslie had a good tip, is that she writes a scene a day, which usually gives her that word count, and usually a little bit over it. I thought that was a great tip on that. And Rhonda did take the quiz and showed 36%, the 9-step plot dot.
Well, we're going to talk about that one really soon because that's my favorite. So
Okay.
yeah, we're going to talk about that one in a minute. So yeah, you may only need 30 scenes. If you know that a scene that each scene you write is going to be about 1,600, 1,700 words, you don't need 50 or 100. You only need about 30. So, you know,
That's
you can play
great.
with this on your own and see what
Yeah.
happens. So this is the roller coaster. Let me see. Yeah, the plot roller coaster. And it's pretty basic, but you're going to have your setup. You've got your rising action. You have the climax, and then the fallen, is that what that says? Yeah, falling action and resolution, and also the inciting incident just before things start rising. So this is your character. The setup is your character in their ordinary world before something happens that sends them on their journey. So very easy. I'm going, you know, you can read all about this. So that's a little bit more planning out than, oh, and it gives you a little worksheet, which this is so cool because they always give you these little worksheets where you can take your own notes and fill them out. This, okay, so I tied with the roller coaster and the plot dot. So well, you guys aren't going to be able to see this, but I printed it out and put it on a corkboard so that I could see it. So I would have this handy all the time. So you can do something like that. I think, yeah, I can see this better. So with this one, I just love the way it's a circle and it just tells you what you need to do. So you're going to, again, have your inciting incident, the point of no return, the first battle, the midpoint, the second battle, the dark night of the soul, the triumphant knowledge, and then start with, you know, well, you start with the ordinary world. I think I'm sorry, I skipped that one. So you want to start with that, but then you're going to kind of go back to that one. So this one works for me because it's a little bit more detailed than the roller coaster one, and I like knowing what I'm writing toward. So even if I just have like 3 major things that I can pinpoint as what I want to do in the story, I know that that's where I need to go, and I have something to write towards. I may not know how I'm going to get there, but I get there. So that's a help. So, you know, you can read more about all of these elements.
This resource is just amazing.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah, you know, I have inside me this children's book I want to attempt someday, and I've always said that because I'm not a fiction writer. I think I'll just download this resource.
Yeah.
It would give me the tool to, maybe it's what I'm missing to dive into it.
It's a great tool because it gives you guidance, and you can see, you know, what kind of works, again, what works for you and what doesn't, and you're not going to be the same as everybody else, and that's okay. We all develop our own. I mean, I've talked about this before in Writer's Chat. There are stories that I write. I do the outline kind of it, or I don't like the word outline. I do a chapter summary, and I write those stories from that chapter summary. And then there are stories that I still kind of really start from nothing and just pants it. So, you know, even the story, you know, my method isn't the same every single time. You know?
Now, yeah, but I'm gonna, as for somebody who, well, we'll jump to the nonfiction in a little bit, but if somebody was watching this, the replay or in the chat, it sounds like a lot in the chat have done this, but maybe not everybody has, and they're looking at the month of November right now thinking, okay, the first week's the Ohio Christian Writers Conference, so I'm going to be behind to even start. If I'd want to do this the month of November, and I'm speaking for myself here, I would not start until probably November.
Oh, I would not do that. I would, even if you could only write 500 words, and you should be able to write 500 words in about a half an hour, if not less, if you are not editing, and if you are just letting yourself flow. Really, if you can do that, and it's hard to do that, it's hard to shut off that editor. I know it is, because I'm a very precise writer. I mean, I kind of want to write so each word is what I want it to be, and you know, and then I have less revision later. I'm kind of learning to write fast and write messy and spend more time in the revising. In fact, the last novel I did is probably, outside of NaNoWriMo, the messiest draft I've ever written, and now I'm revising it because, you know, you just learn, and it's like, it's like my 10th or 11th novel. I mean, so, you know, it's still just a learning thing, and you've got to learn what works best for you. But I would definitely, even if you have to get up a half hour early, stay up a half hour late, something, I would not wait till after the Ohio Writers Conference to start.
Okay.
I would get words down. And then on the weekends, if you can spend more time and get caught up, great. But no, don't wait. Make sure you're getting at least a few words. Try to get at least 500, even if you can't get anything else.
And Rhonda said she might start a little bit early, so if she missed a couple days during the writers' conference. So you might want to step back and look at what you already have planned in November and plan accordingly.
That's part of this work. That's the 5th session of this too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine, because it's, you know, yeah, I want to know I can't see the chat at all, so I'm glad to know what's going on in there. Yeah. Okay, so this one's Save the Cat, 3 acts, 15 beats. There is a whole book. Oh shoot, it's laying over there. I should have had it here.
I thought I had the book. I'm kind of looking for it, but I don't see it right off. Yeah.
Mine's over on a desk that I can't get to real easily. But yeah, Save the Cat. It's a book. It's actually was first written for screenwriters, but novelists use it too. And you can see here, and this again, 3 acts, 15 beats. I like the 3-act structure. I've not gone this far into like the 15 beats, but thinking of the 3-act structure is a really good way to think about your story. Okay. So this all then talks about that. We're going to scroll through those till we get to the next one. Okay, and but you see how these are getting more complicated, right?
Yeah.
But if you've got that really, you know, you like spreadsheets and you like worksheets and you like stuff, you know, the further in, the more of those you're going to have. I have never heard of this one before, and I do not know who Katie is, but this is the Katie Tastics 3-act, 9-block, 27-chapter outline. Wow. There is a how-to video. Right here's the link to a how-to video, and I think I'm going to watch it. I will not do this method. I know I won't do this method, but I do want to watch it because I'm very interested in, you know, just how different people write their stories. So she has, look at all this. Act 1, 9, 18, 27. I mean, she has got it down. So that may be the approach you want to take. And you know what? If you have all of this done in October, you'll know exactly what you're going to be writing. I mean, because you'll have it.
I love the blog post title about you outline your story like a subway map. You could just picture the subway maps. Yeah.
I clicked on that and it did. I mean, she had it like if you've seen a subway map, you know, yeah, she did do it. So yeah, you want to check that out.
Beyond me. Okay.
Session 4, build a strong world for your character, and that's setting. So, you know, and it's talking about how setting creates moods, and some exercises to help you with that. Yeah, and again, that depending on your story, I think setting is really important. I get positive feedback on how my settings become a real part of my story, that there's a strong sense of place in my novels. And so I think it's really important. But, you know, some settings are going to be more important than others. You're going to have settings that if you're building a whole world because you're writing a fantasy and you're making it all up, I mean, everything's going to be just so important. You're going to have to spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah, and just in the chat, Pat shared that if anybody wanted a spreadsheet, she made one for scene construction based on a lot of the Save the Cat and the Wylands information superimposed on top of each other. Pat, I think that is great. If you'd want to stick your, Patricia, stick your email or something in the chat real quick if somebody wanted to reach out to you for that, or if you were so willing to put it on the Writers Chat members page, you know, a link to it and stuff like that. I think that would be a wonderful tool to share with it, especially those of us that haven't had a lot of experiences creating scenes. Like, appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see that too. Thank you for doing that. Especially when you're talking about superimposing different ones on top of each other, because that is part of what I have done through my writing journey, is taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of something else from different people to kind of make it my own. And
Rhonda's sharing with us a lot of times if you could choose a sitting a city setting, and I would choose an exotic island or a key that we'd have to go visit those places and use it as a tactic, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, you can do
Yeah.
that.
She has it as a lead. Patricia said she has it a lead magnet too. What a neat idea. Do that as a lead magnet. We'll sign up for your stuff. Yeah.
Yes,
I think that is a great idea.
yeah, Patricia, please put that in the Facebook group or on the Writers Chat page.
Even if we use it as a lead magnet, we would do that. Road trip, Norma says. Road trip. Okay. Back to focus.
Back to settings. So fortunately, if you can't afford to travel to where you want to go, there's so many resources. So it's really great that we have the internet. And you can even like do street views and things like that. And I've heard about authors doing that. Actually doing street views of European cities and that kind of thing. Okay, and the settings, I like this too, settings that reinforce characters. And I really encourage you, even if you're not going to get really deep into plotting methods, to read this, because this is an excellent example of showing versus telling. This little section on Jasmine. So you see in the first one, we're telling about Jasmine, and it's just she's had a hard time. She's sad. She's lonely. Her sister left to college, and she misses her. But then, and I'm not going to read all of that, but read that and see the difference that showing makes versus telling. And it's very poignant. I mean, it's very, very good. So this is a way, though, that you can use setting to show what your character is feeling. And it's a great example. It's one of the best, actually one of the best examples of show versus tell I've ever seen, I think.
Yeah. Hey, a question's come up in the chat, Johnny. And Lori asked that she's interested in this. Should she join your Facebook group, Series Writer Facebook group, or wait till she really knows she's doing it?
No. Go ahead and join. I mean, because we all know that life happens, things happen. You may be thinking, oh, gung-ho, I'm going to do this, and something happens and you can't. And that's fine. It's never a failure, because any words you get written, anything you learn from being in that Facebook group, even if you don't participate, is a plus, right? I mean, because writing is a journey. It is a journey, and we stumble and we fall and we get back up and we keep on going. And so I don't want anyone to feel like if you don't get 50,000 words that you failed NaNoWriMo. I know that feeling, because I felt that way the one time I didn't make it. And that was why the next year when I did it again, I was so determined that, yes, I'm going to do it this time. But it's okay. I mean, it's okay, because no matter what you have written is more than what you would have had written if you hadn't tried. And even if all you're doing is participating in the group, I mean, even if you're not doing it, but you can encourage other people and you're learning, and then maybe next year you'll want to do it, that's fine. So yes, if you want to be in that group, you don't have to make a commitment. Just do it. Just join us. We'd love to have you. Okay, organizing your life to support. Okay, so I'm going to go through this quick, because I know Jeannie's got a couple things to say, and I want to go over the story archetypes really quick. And I wanted to show you my one other little inspiration board, because I'm not very visual usually. Let me do this first. I don't usually cast my characters. I don't, I'm not artistic in any means, but I'm trying to do more of that kind of thing, just to grow as a person and as a creative person. So I don't know how well you guys can see this, because I'm sharing my screen. But these are some pictures, and this was part of an exercise we did in the Writers Chat fiction group. So this is my hero, this guy, and this is his dad, and this is where his dad lives, because he's in exile, self-imposed exile. So he's living on this rocky coast in this house. That, I know a little bit more about my story than this. I know the heroine is in a photography class, because she's going through photography therapy because of some incident that she feels guilty about, where I think someone died, but I'm not sure yet. That really is about, and the guy, he forges blades, because I've been watching Forged in Fire, and I got really excited about that show, and I think it's really interesting. So she finds an old knife somewhere in a tree, actually near a cemetery. So, and she takes it to him because he's an expert on military weapons, and somehow they both get embroiled in something that they have to go to his dad, which risks his dad because his dad's in, like I said, self-imposed exile, but we're not really sure why. That's really all I know about my story. So it's going to be suspense, but I have no idea what the suspense part of it is. So anyway, you know, just so pictures can be just pulling out pictures of a character in a house. That was what we had to do in that exercise. And it was really fun because we all were then brainstorming how these characters in these houses go together. And one of the members, which was so clever in that group, had as her house a shopping cart. So I mean, that just gave a whole different slant to a story, because then you're talking about someone who's homeless, right? So I mean, it's really fun just to pull pictures together that may not seem to be related to one another, and then try to build a story around them. So okay, really quick, organizing your life. Stock up on writing fuel.
Chocolate.
Yes, yes.
Hey.
These things. Try to get other people to do your chores. You know, just all kinds of things. And then there's a page where you can list some of the things that you need to delegate or whatever. But this is cute. So they also give you do not disturb writer at work door hangers. So you can print those off. And here, you can give this to your significant others in your life, caring for your,
you know, that was a tip.
Writer.
I did this, like I said, one time full blast. One time. I played with it one other time, but one time full blast, did it nonfiction. But you know, I had a talk with my husband before we started, and I said, I'm taking this challenge. And he got to the place. I said, I'm going to disappear for X hour or the next hour and a half because I got to go do my words today. And he knew it was going to just be that month, and he supported me through that. You know, so but Mary wants to know, how do you get your cats to do what?
Yeah, I don't know.
Let them do the chores and leave you alone, right?
Keep them off your laptop. Cats love laptops.
Yeah.
Here's a letter. It's really cute. Dear important person, and you know, it just, you can think
I love it.
that off.
Love it.
Okay, so let me see what else. There's session 6. I missed that one. Find, schedule, and manage your time. So here are some ideas on, like, you know, if you can only use the weekends, if you have a lot of time, it gives you different ideas. So here, like here you can see, if you can pretty well manage your own time, you can do 1,667 words a day. If you can see where my cursor is, right under the goal. If weekends are for writing, of course, then they say for the goal 800 words every weekday and 4,250 words every weekend.
That would work.
So
it possibly. And by the way, thanks, Melissa. Melissa put the Serious Writers NaNoWriMo Facebook group link. Yeah, thank you, Melissa, for doing that.
And then here's one that talks about, like, if you can only do like 30-minute writing sessions every day, like try to do at least 2, so I mean, they've just got different, wherever you are, you know, that you can look and see the structure that might work for you, and the goal, and how you might do it. And then here's
Brandy suggested even dictating them, if that works for you. You know,
that might,
that could work while I travel to Columbus, down by Columbus, for the Ohio Christian Writers Conference, to dictate in the car. You know,
and then have those words that way. Here's a sticker thing that's really cute. Wow. And then if you go through the workshop, I actually printed this out, but I think it's still in my printer. I didn't pull it out. There is a certificate, and you can print that off and put your name in it. So there you go. I'm going to see now if I can get on here the 7-story archetypes real quick. So while I'm doing this, Jeannie, if you want to talk about what you wanted to talk about.
Okay, I just wanted to add something for our nonfiction people that are in the group on that, and I'm going to, well, maybe not. Well, I get just FYI, Annette Whipple, who is one of our groups that's here, just does a lot of children's writing too. Put a link, I think just this morning, in our Writers Chat Facebook page there, which most of you guys are all over there, members, because that's how you got here today. But anyway, she put a link to a nonfiction group that both had a Facebook page and a web page, and she thinks it's going to mainly be for nonfiction children writers. So you might want to look at that if you have an interest in that for the month of November. I just wanted to share a little bit about my experience. The 1 month Johnnie twisted my arm and said, "Do this, Jeannie, do this." That was my full attempt. I did get 50,000 words, though. I did finish it. I just took an idea and just free wrote an idea. I took the, it served two purposes. I took Psalm 119, which those of you will know is the longest, huge psalm, and I had never really read that whole psalm because it just goes on and on and on. And I took that and took so many verses each day and free wrote my thoughts, my prayers. I did some research with it, and I still have that resource today. And it really grew me as a Christian, but also got me into that psalm, but also was a way to free write. And I think I'm like Johnnie. I learned so much, and it gave me confidence as a writer to delve into that. There is also, and as soon as when Johnnie starts talking about this, I'll write this in the webpage too, a nonfiction writer university, Nina Amir, I think, and I'll write her link in there, has her challenge pre-check preparation for writing nonfiction in November. And it's like, describe your market, know your competition, create a table of contents, which though if you do a book proposal, you know that, so she, for nonfiction, so she creates the table of contents beforehand, and then she flushes it out during November on that way. But a lot of it's the same thing that this tool that you gave us today, Johnnie, a lot of it is doing it ahead of time and have your family as being part of the goal, do your research ahead of time and all that. So she's got a couple, and I'll put those links into there, but I did want to share what Annette shared, and I'll put the link. I'll get the link real quick while you share here about the archetypes. And it is almost noon, so we'll invite everybody back in. So you do that, why don't you invite people back in, and I'll go get these other resources. Okay.
So 7-story archetypes, and the theory is that almost every story, I mean like 99.9% of stories, will fall under one of these archetypes. So it's overcoming the monster, rags to riches, the quest, voyage and return, comedy, tragedy, and rebirth. And I'm thinking that most of us, I probably shouldn't say that. I think most of us in the Facebook group who did this said the quest, but I could be wrong about that. And I know there were other answers too. Not everybody said the same thing, but somebody had tragedy, I remember too. And I think there may have been rags to riches. Bethany's thinking of a story, and I think it's a rags to riches story. But anyway, this could be like a starting place for you too. If you just don't have any ideas yet what you want to do, think about what kind of story you might want to write and do some research on this. And you can find tons of information online about the 7-story archetypes. So, okay, I'm going to stop sharing and ask everybody to come back. And if you have any questions real quick or any comments, again, you guys know I've missed all the chat. So I can't help, I just don't know what y'all have been talking about. While you're doing that, a couple recommendations. Here's a book called Ready, Set, Novel. It's also put out by the NaNoWriMo people. It doesn't come with this binding. I took this book to Office Depot and had them cut the spine and add that, but it makes it nice because it can hold, lay out flat. So it has all kinds of exercises, all kinds of ideas, all kinds of resources. And then they always do these cute, cute things. So if you reach a milestone, there's a high five, so you can high five. If you need a kick in the pants, there's the booth, we'll kick you in the pants. And because we are writers, we are wonderful. We all have the skill. We are wonderful at what? Procrastination. So this is the procrastination station, and it's pages to color, of famous authors. So that was Flaubert, Jane Austen. So if you get this book, you can also do some coloring. Mary Shelley, Dostoevsky. So anyway, this might be something you want to do, but if not, that workbook, that prep book that we put up there is great. And I've got one more book that I'm going to try to find while Jeannie's talking, actually.
Oh, well, I got to get back to work here. I was putting a couple resources in for nonfiction writers that I ran across this morning in the links. So you've got both the one I talked about the nonfiction writers group, and from there you sign up, and from there she'll take you over to the Facebook page and then Writer's Digest had a thing, something about what is a nonfiction writer supposed to do the month of November. So while she's looking for that, does anybody have any questions or sharing before we wrap up today? And can anybody get back on? If Mary Gardner, I'll help you real quick, Mary. So hold on. Here we go. There you go.
But while you're doing that, no plot, no problem. This is an older book, but it was written by one of the first people that was involved in the creation of NaNoWriMo. Yeah, this is in 2004. I mean, so I don't know if there's an updated version or not, but it's just also a very encouraging book. And again, this is really early on in the journey, but they give, again, there's lots of just ideas on all kinds of different things. And it's written in that same just kind of funny, irreverent almost tone of which NaNoWriMo is. It's just like abandon everything and just write, so it can also be a good resource.
On that. I don't know if anybody has questions real quick. It is noon, so we'll have to go quick, but anybody have any questions that they want to ask Johnnie and pick her brain while we got her here?
Or if you've taken the quiz, Rhonda, what did you come up with?
The 9.9
right.
dot. Yeah, but I honestly think I'm probably more Save the Cat.
Okay, well, that's fine. Yeah. Some of those quizzes with the animals kind of threw me off. So I was like, I wasn't sure which animal I wanted to be.
I think it was a little split personality.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit.
I will say I put in the chat a link to inspiredprompt.com. They were featuring recipes building up to NaNoWriMo for people who wanted to save time.
Really?
So they asked me, I wrote a guest post on it with a black bean recipe. So if you want some food to prep in advance,
that's great.
Recipes there.
I love that.
In the chat.
That is great. I was thinking too, and I this thought had flitted through my head and then didn't come back again until today. But we talk about Robert Benson, the author of Dancing on the Head of a Pin, and he has different hats he wears for different parts of the writing process. And I think that was mentioned in this book too, to have some kind of totem or some kind of hat or something so that it just puts you in the mind of writing. Like, when you have your hat on, that's when it's time to do NaNoWriMo, or when you've got your special drinking glass or your special, whatever, just something just to kind of hold on to and give you that inspiration. And I will say I have learned over these past several weeks that if I sit at my desk and write, I get so much more done than if I write anywhere else in the house. And I used to say I could write anywhere, but actually the truth is at my desk is the best place for me to be.
Me too. Something about getting here, I'm ready to write.
It is.
So it's like a prayer chair. I have my prayer chair, and I go there, I'm ready to pray. I go here, I'm ready to write. It's sort of becomes our hats.
It does. So,
while we're still recording, let's mention what we're going to talk about next week, so you have some idea about what next week's schedule is. And then I'm going to again also turn it over to Johnnie, because we're going to do a book review. And you want to give us the name of the book? Do you remember? Writing with?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's also hiding someplace.
Writing with Motion,
Tension and Conflict. I really thought I had that book right here. I think it's in my bedroom.
And I think a couple other people are going to join us that day. Is it Norma? You're with us? I can't remember who's all with us that
and
day.
Melissa. I think Melissa and Norma and I are doing that. So that's
I'll be the voice for the nonfiction writer, saying we can always use fiction techniques in our nonfiction. There's always ways to learn that. So don't write that off just because you're a nonfiction writer.
No, and it's a good book. It truly is. Writing with Emotion, Tension, and Conflict. It's a great book. to use. So,
And we've been trying to periodically take one book and kind of diving in deeper. So this was the book for kind of this quarter that we chose on that. Johnnie, thank you. This has been amazing. What a ride. I'm half tempted to download that resource that
good,
you
yeah.
gave us and just do that the month of November. You know, if I did that for my children's book idea, I would be so far ahead.
Would
You
be.
know, I know that it defeats the purpose of writing 50,000 words, but what a neat challenge that could just be, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, I think people anymore just sort of tailor NaNoWriMo to their own needs, but they still then get to be part of the fun and frenzy of NaNoWriMo, you know, and that's what it is. It's fun and frenzy, and it's hard, but it's, you know, you've got all these people doing it. And, you know, there may be, if you get on the NaNoWriMo site, there may be meetups, you know, in your community that, you know, there's municipal liaisons, they're called, and they schedule meeting times. If you're in the Orlando area, they do one at one of the Disney properties, which would be just phenomenal to be able to go to. So,
But,
you know,
and Lori mentioned earlier, and I wrote this down. No, Leslie, excuse me. Leslie said about they do Camp Nano in April and July. So there's even variation, because sometimes November is just the wrong month for somebody. Somebody could be under, let's be positive, somebody could have a book contract and be under a deadline.
right.
But April or July may work better. Maybe they're a teacher and they can't write during the school year, but July. So look up Camp NaNoWriMo Month or whatever that.
I know. Yeah, Camp NaNoWriMo. I think on that one too, if I'm not mistaken, Leslie's really involved in camp. In the camp, so she's the expert on that. But I think you set your own goals, so you know that makes it a little bit easier than trying to do 50,000 words. But anyway, if you're in the Serious Writer Facebook group, or if you want to be, please join, and we will be happy to welcome you. If you haven't already told us, take it, you know, the results of your quiz. We would love to have you put that. If you haven't already told us your story archetype, be glad for you to put that. And it seems like, was there something else? Does anyone remember that we've already asked and had people, was it something about your characters, or 3 things about your story that you already know?
Yeah.
That's what I had asked. Just any 3 random things that you know about your story, and they don't have to be cohesive or go together. Just like maybe just have 3 things, you know, a setting, you know, a prompt, a prop, you know, whatever. You can do whatever you want to go. Thank you. Thanks, guys, for your comments.
Thank you for doing this today, Johnnie. And we'll let you finish up the recording. We'll see everybody next week, where we're going to look at a book review about working with emotion, tension, and conflict. Is that the 3rd one? Conflict? And all that. So thank you, and thank you for joining us today. Bye, everybody.
Bye.